Hello, my dear students. Good evening. Welcome to Sankalp Learning Classes. Today we are discussing the important question answer from the How do organisms reproduce? Already we know the theoretical part of this chapter, and now we are discussing the important questions. So that is from the old question paper as well as some important question paper from the other exams. So in the last class we discussed about the we already discussed the 1 mark questions as well as multiple choice questions, right? So in today's class we are discussing the 2 mark, 3 mark as well as long answer questions. Okay, so let us start with the first question. Draw a label diagram of longitudinal section of flower. So this is the 2 mark question. Draw a label diagram of longitudinal section of a flower. Okay. Yes. So how you should draw the flower diagram? So as per given in your NCERT textbook. Okay. So you should draw the diagram and mention the parts like anther, filament, and petals, sepals. So this is the ovary, then style, stigma, pistil. So these all things you have to mention in the um, your drawing. Okay, so first you have to draw the diagram, then labeling is very important. You have to label each and every part. Okay, sometimes they will give uh, some parts like name the sepals, petals or stigma, style, like that, but sometimes they will not give any parts, but you should label. Okay, so that is very important. Next question. What are the functions performed by the testes in human beings? What are the functions of the testes? So that is also a 2 mark question. Here the testes, they regulate the production of the sperms, as well as they release the hormone that is called as testosterone hormone. So what is the function of testosterone hormone? Testosterone hormone, so this hormone is able to that is related to the some characters development during the puberty in the males, especially the growth of the hairs on face and some other characters related to the puberty. Okay, so how you should write the answer? The male gametes sperms are produced by the gonads, the testes. Testes also produce the hormone called testosterone, which is responsible for secondary sexual characters developing at the time of puberty in males. So, this is very important. Please note down the answer. What are the functions of the testes? This is a 2 mark question. Next question. Reaching to a sexual maturation is an essential event with respect to mammals like humans. Substantiate this statement. This is also a 2 mark question. Reaching to a sexual maturation. So, what is sexual maturation? Is essential event with respect to mammals like humans. Substantiate this statement. So, in mammals as well as in human beings, the sexual activities or sexual reproduction takes place after the sexual maturation. So before that there is no uh, sexual reproduction, or there is no reproduction takes place before the sexual maturation. So this sexual maturation is very important because for the for what reason? For reproduction. It is essential event with respect to the mammals and humans because it is related to the reproduction. After reaching the sexual maturation, mammals like human beings, so they are able to reproduce. So before the sexual maturation, it is not possible. So it is very essential event in mammals like human beings. Okay, please note down this question. Next question. What is pollination? What are the changes that occur in the flower after pollination? What is pollination? So that is 1 mark question. And what are the changes that occur in the flower after pollination? What are the changes occur in flower after pollination? The first thing is transfer of pollens from stamen to stigma is called pollination. Transfer of pollens from stamen to stigma is called pollination. Ovule develops a tough coat and becomes a seed. Ovules develop into a seed. Ovary develops into a fruit. Petals, sepals, and stamens tell stigma. They shrivel and fall off. So seed contains the embryo which develops into seedling under the suitable condition, that is called as germination. Here after the fertilization, ovule develop into seed, ovary develop into a fruit, petal, sepal, stamen, style, stigma, they fall off. Okay, so that is very important. Please note down the answer. Next question. Name the reproductive parts of the flower and explain its function. Name the reproductive parts of the flower and explain its function. Please note down this question. Yes, here the reproductive part, stamen, it is the male reproductive part formed of anther and filament. It produces yellow colored sticky pollen grains. It produces the male germ cells. The stamen, so totally the anther and pistil. So this is the anther and this is the filament, sorry, anther and filament together called as a stamen. And these anthers, they produce the yellow colors powder like structure, they are called as pollen grains, and these pollen grains, they are able to produce the male gametes. And pistil is the female reproductive structure. Pistil, so I will draw the pistil like this. So this is the female, it is totally called as pistil. So this is the female reproductive structure and it contains stigma. This is the stigma and style and ovary. Stigma, style and ovary. Stigma, which is the sticky part, so which receives the pollen grains, and style is the elongated part, and ovary is the swollen bottom part contain ovules, and inside the ovules egg cells or female gametes are present. Inside the ovule female gametes are present. Okay, so this is the female reproductive structure and this is the male reproductive structure. Please note down the male and female reproductive structures of the plants. question. What are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction? What are the uses of the sexual reproduction over the asexual reproduction? So this will be the 3-mark question. 3-mark question. Advantages of the sexual reproduction. So here the sexual reproduction is the process of combining two different genetic materials resulting in offspring that share similar traits with their parents but are genetically diverse. They are genetically different from the parents. In sexual reproduction, large number of species with variations are produced, thus it ensures the survival of the species in a population. The variation that leads to the survival of the population and to adjust with the environment, and the newly formed individuals has characteristics of two genetically different parents. Variations are more viable in sexual reproduction. So the main advantage of the sexual reproduction means reproduction is, so it produces the new offspring which contain both the parental which is not similar to both parents but genetically which is different from the both of its parents, which leads to the variation, small variation, and that leads to the speciation. Okay, so that is the advantage of the sexual reproduction. Next question. In humans, how surgical contraceptive methods can be used to prevent the pregnancy? Surgical methods of prevention of the pregnancy. Please note down this question, one of the important question. In humans, how the surgical contraceptive methods can be used to prevent the pregnancy? So here, if the vas difference in the male is blocked, sperm transfer will be prevented, and this is the first method of this can be uh, the surgical method of the prevention of the pregnancy in males. Okay, so the sperm transfer is blocked where the vas difference in male is blocked. If the fallopian tube in the female is blocked, the egg will not be able to reach the uterus. In both cases fertilization will not take place. In case of, it is called as tubectomy, sorry, this is called as vasectomy. The cut and block of the vas difference, so that is called as vasectomy, and this is called as tubectomy. Okay, this word is not given in your book, but the fallopian tube is cut and tied, so where the egg transformation will not take place, which leads to the uh, so in case there is no fertilization takes place and which prevent the pregnancy, that is the tubectomy, and another one is the vasectomy. Surgical methods can be used to create such blocks. So these are the two methods used to prevent the pregnancy. Surgical methods used to prevent the pregnancy. Why does menstruation occur? So what is the reason to occurring for that the menstruation? If egg does not If the egg does not get fertilized, then the lining of the uterus breaks down slowly and comes out in the form of blood and mucus from the vagina. This is complete process of the menstruation. So very important, if the egg does not get fertilized, then the lining of the endometrium break down. So in the form of, it come out in the form of blood and mucus, so that is through the vagina. So this complete process is called as a menstruation? Very important question. Draw the diagram showing the germination of pollen on stigma. How the pollen grains germinate on stigma and reach the egg. So that is the important diagram. So yes, this one is the diagram which shows the germination. These are the pollen grains and they are able to germinate. They pass through the style and they will reach the female gamete. So this is the diagram which shows the germination of the pollen grains on stigma. Very important diagram, and they will ask to label the different parts: pollen tube, pollen grain, and this is the stigma, and so this is the ovary, and this is the female germ cell. So these all are very important points. Next question. How are the modes of reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? How are the modes of reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? Here, the unicellular organisms, the reproduction takes place by fission or budding or some other methods, but in case of the multicellular organisms, reproduction takes place by regeneration, budding and vegetative propagation, spore formation and sexual reproduction. So these are the different methods of the reproduction takes place in the multicellular organisms, but fission and budding, so that takes place in the unicellular organisms. So the reproduction in unicellular organisms different from the multicellular organisms. Next question. What are the advantages of vegetative propagation? So this is the type of asexual reproduction mainly takes place in plants. So what are the advantages of this vegetative propagation? Here, plants raised by vegetative propagation can bear flowers and fruits earlier than those produced from the seeds. They produce uh, the flowers and seeds earlier than the other plants which are produced through the seeds. Such methods also make possible the propagation of plants such as banana, orange, and rose and jasmine that have lost the uh, capacity to produce the seeds. Some plants they lost their ability to produce the seeds. For example, banana. So in case of these plants, the vegetative propagation method, so that is helpful uh, to produce the new plants. And another advantage of vegetative propagation is that all plants produced are genetically similar enough to the parent plant to have all its characters. They are genetically similar to the parent plant. So these are some advantages of the vegetative propagation. Please note down the answer. This is also a 3-mark question. Next question. Explain any one type of asexual reproduction. There are different types of the asexual reproduction we have studied in this chapter, that is fission, binary fission and multiple fission is there, and fragmentation and spore formation, vegetative propagation, then regeneration. These are the different methods of the asexual reproduction in case of the organisms. So any one type of the asexual reproduction, that is budding. Organisms such as Hydra use regenerative cells for reproduction in the process of budding. In Hydra, a bud develops as an outgrowth due to repeated cell division at one into tiny individuals and when in specific site. These birds develop fully mature, detached from the parent body and become new independent individuals. So in case of the hydra, so just imagine this is the hydra. Okay. Here the small outgrowth that will start to grow here. Then this small bud-like structure that will develop completely. After that, it will detach from the parent body and develop into a new organism that takes place in Hydra and in case of the yeast. Next question, what are the different methods of contraception? So this is also a 3-mark question. What are the different methods of contraception? What are the different methods of contraception? Okay. Please note down the question. It will be helpful for your board exam to get the good marks in the board exam. Yes. Contraception or birth control methods include condoms, diaphragms, and contraceptive pill implants, IUD, and sterilization. Means the first method is the barrier method. In this method, the fertilization of ovum and sperm is checked out with the help of artificially developed barriers. Barriers are developed for both male and females. Most common barriers available in market, they are condoms. So where the fusion of the male and female gametes will be prevented, and oral contraceptives. So these are the tablets, so which are taken by the females to check the pregnancy. This contains small doses of hormones in forms of pills that prevent release the eggs, and thus fertilization cannot occur. Implants and surgical methods, so these are the some surgical methods like the vasectomy and tubectomy, where the surgically the vas difference and the fallopian tube is cut and tied, where the fertilization is prevented, and some copper T, so that is implanted inside the uterus, which prevent the pregnancy. So these are the different methods of prevention of the pregnancy. Very important question. Please note down the question. What are the different methods of contraception? So please note down this. Next question. What could be the reason for adopting a contraceptive methods? What could be the reasons for the adopting contraceptive methods? Here, the reasons for adopting contraceptive methods are: couples are not interested to get issues early. Pregnancy will make major demands on body and mind of the woman, and if she is not ready for it, her health will be adversely affected. There many be pressure There may be a pressure to avoid having children from the government agencies. So these are the different methods of why the what is the reason behind adopting the contraceptive methods. Please note down the question, the reasons for adopting contraceptive methods. Next question. How does reproduction help in providing stability to populations of species? How does reproduction help in providing the stability to populations of species? Please note down this question. So, populations of organisms fill well when defined places or niches in ecosystem. The consistency of DNA copying during the reproduction is very important for the maintenance of the body design features that allow the organism to use that particular niche. Reproduction is therefore linked to the stability of population of species. So, these are the some uh, how the reproduction help in providing the stability to populations of species. How does the embryo get nourishment inside the mother's body? How does the embryo get nourishment inside the mother's body? Here, after fertilization, the lining of the uterus thickens and is richly supplied with blood to nourish the growing embryo. The embryo gets nutrition from mother's blood with the help of special tissue called placenta. It is embedded in the uterine wall. Placenta contains villi on the embryo side of the tissues and blood spaces on the mother side surrounding the villi. This provides a large surface from mother to embryo and waste products from the embryo to mother. So this is how the embryo get the nourishment from the placenta. So very importantly, the placenta, so that provides the nutritions as well as which remove the some unwanted waste produced in the fetus. Next question. If a woman is using copper tea, will it help in the protecting her sexually transmitted diseases? So the copper tea that will usually not help to prevent from the sexually transmitted diseases. Copper T is inserted in a female body to react with the semen entering with the egg in the uterus. Copper ions prevent the pregnancy by inhibiting the movement of the sperm because the copper ion containing fluids are toxic to sperm. So the copper ion that prevents the pregnancy by they prevent the fertilization, prevent the movement of the sperm, but it do not stop the entrance of fluids inside the female body. Hence it will not protect women from sexually transmitted disease. Copper T, it will not prevent the woman from sexually transmitted diseases. So please note down this question. Next question. How does uterus prepare to receive the fertilized egg in woman? What happens if egg does not fertilize? Explain. How does uterus prepare to receive the fertilized egg in woman? Note this question. What happens if egg does not fertilize? Explain. The uterus prepares every month to receive and nurture the embryo. The lining of uterus becomes thick and spongy. It has rich supply of blood to nourish the embryo. The uterus that is get ready to attach the embryo to nourish the embryo. If the egg is not fertilized, it lives for about 1 day. The lining of uterus slowly breaks and come out through the vagina as blood and mucus. This cyclic process occurring every month is called as a menstruation. The uterus that get prepared for the attachment of the embryo, if there is no if the egg is not get fertilized, the walls of the uterus break down in the form of the endometrium breakdown in the form of blood and mucus, so that is called as a menstruation. I will give 1 minute time to write this question. Please note down the answer. So this is the question. How does uterus prepare to receive the fertilized egg in woman? What happens if egg does not fertilize? Explain. Next question. How does menstruation occur? How the process of budding in hydra is different from the bryophyllum. How the budding in hydra and bryophyllum is different. The How does the menstruation occur? Note down the both question. Yes. The lining of the uterus slowly breaks and comes out through the vagina as blood and mucus. This cyclic process occurring every month is called menstruation. So it is called as a menstruation. And how does the process of budding in hydra is different in budding in the bryophyllum? Here, in the location of the birds. In hydra, birds form at a specific budding zone while the bryophyllum birds form on the leaves. So in the bryophyllum, so it forms on the leaves where the small notches are there. Number of birds. Bryophyllum has more birds than the hydra. So in hydra only one or two birds are formed, but more buds are formed compared to hydra in bryophyllum. Okay, so that is the difference between the budding in hydra and budding in bryophyllum. So bryophyllum, that is the vegetative propagation, vegetative type of the propagation. Next question. Explain the development of fertilized egg into fetus in human. In humans, how surgical contraceptive methods can be used to prevent the pregnancy. Explain the how the after the fertilization, when the male and female gametes they fuse to form the zygote, how the further development takes place uh, in a fetus in the human beings. In humans, how the surgical contraceptive methods can be used to prevent the pregnancy. Please note down this question. Next question, next answer. The uterus prepares every month to receive and nurture the embryo. The lining becomes thick and spongy. It has rich supply of blood to nourish the embryo. Placenta is a disc of special tissue embedded in uterine wall and it connects the fetus to the mother. So it contains the villi on the embryo side and on the mother side are the blood spaces surrounding the villi. So this is how after the fertilization what happens inside the how the development of the fetus takes place after the fertilization. The embryo gets nourishment from the mother's blood. Placenta transport glucose and oxygen from mother to the embryo, and it also removes the waste from the embryo into the mother's blood. Development of the child inside the mother's body takes place about 9 months. So like this, after the fertilization, so when it attaches to the walls of the uterus, the development of the fetus takes place in this method. Okay, again you can note down the answer. Next one, how this next question, B question. In humans, how surgical methods, contraceptive methods can be used to prevent the pregnancy. The surgical contraceptive methods that involves the in male vas difference is blocked to prevent the sperm transport, and in case of the female, fallopian tube is blocked to prevent the egg reaching the uterus. So here there is a word. So when the vas difference is blocked, that is called as vasectomy. Vasectomy, you can note down for your knowledge. And where fallopian tube is blocked, it is called as tubectomy. Vasectomy, tubectomy. Next question. Explain the significant function of each structure in human male reproductive system. Very important question. Explain the significant function of each structure in human male reproductive system. Please note down the question. Here, testes. This is the 5 mark question. In these germ cells, means sperms are formed. Testes are located in the scrotum because sperm formation requires a lower temperature than the body temperature, and testes also secrete the hormone testosterone. It regulates the formation of the sperms and changes in the body during the puberty. That is the function of the testes, mainly the production of the sperms, then the production of the hormone, so that regulates the formation of the sperms as well as the changes that occur during the puberty. So this is the one of the important structure in the male reproductive system. Next, it also includes the vas deferens to deliver the sperms, which unites with the urethra coming from the urinary bladder. So thus the urethra forms the common passage for sperms and urine. And along with the vas deferens, glands like prostate and seminal vesicles release some fluid secretion. The vas deferens that carry the sperms to the uh, urethra, so which is the common passage for the sperms and urine. And during this in this path, the some glands like prostate gland, seminal vesicles release some secretions. So what is the function of this secretion? These are mixed with the sperms to form the semen. It makes the sperms transport easier and provide the nutrition. This secretion, they provide the nutrients as well as it makes the sperm transport easier. A sperm consists of genetic material and long tail that helps to move towards the female germ cell. So that is egg. Yes. Testes and vas deferens, and how the common passage that urethra and glands like prostate gland, seminal vesicles, so how these glands help to the production of the sperms, and how they, what is the functions of these all are mentioned in this answer. Please note down. Next question. Explain the structure and important role of placenta during the pregnancy period of women. Very important question. So this is also a 3 mark or 3 mark question. Very important question. So in many question paper about the functions of placenta was asked. Please concentrate on this topic. What are the functions of placenta? The embryo gets nutrition from the mother's blood. The transport of glucose and oxygen from the mothers to the embryo, so that also takes place through the placenta, and it removes the waste from the embryo into mother's blood. So it also helpful for the removal of the waste product from the embryo also. And the nutrition, mainly the glucose and oxygen, the very important essential materials are transported through the placenta, and nitrogenous waste and some other carbon dioxide also removed by the placenta, and that is excreted to the mother's blood, and embryo gets the nutrition from the mother's blood, that is also through the placenta. So that is, these are the some important functions of the placenta. How will an organism be benefited if it reproduce through the spores? What are this is the spore production, that is the asexual type of the reproduction, right? Mainly occurs in rhizopus. Rhizopus, that is an fungi. So here, how will an organism be benefited if it reproduce through the spores? Huge numbers of spores are produced at a time. Distribution of spores are very easy by a for far off places to avoid the competition at one place. And spores can store genetic information for very long time as they are covered by thick walls to prevent the dehydration and other unfavorable conditions for new ones development. So that is the importance of the that is the advantage of the production of the spores in the organisms. Next question. How is the process of pollination different from the fertilization? Here the pollination, that is the transfer of the pollen grains towards the stigma. Here just imagine this is the stigma. These are the pollen grains. This is the process of the transfer of the pollen grains to the stigma, that is called as the pollination. But the fusion of male gametes and the female gametes, that is called as male gametes as well as female gametes, that is called as fertilization. Okay. So that is the main difference between the pollination and fertilization here. Pollination, transfer of pollen grains to the stigma of the pistil, is termed as pollination. Fusion of male germ cells or gametes, so that is called as sperms, with the female gametes is called as a fertilization. Here, pollinating agents like insect, wind or water assist the process. So, some pollinating agents, some abiotic or biotic agents are required for the pollination. Pollen tube carries the male gametes to the female gamete in plants. In animals, sperms swim through the body fluids and reproductive tract of the female to reach the egg. So, in case of pollination, some abiotic or biotic factors that help assist the process. The fertilization takes place in plants, that is through the tube produced by the pollen tube through the where the male gametes and female gametes they will fuse. And in case of animals, the sperms um, swim and reach the fallopian tube to fuse with the egg. So that is in case of the human beings. So that is how the fertilization takes place in the human beings. Okay. So this is also one of the important question. Next question. What are the changes seen in girls at the time of puberty? At the time of puberty, what are the changes occur? The changes like secondary sexual characters seen in girls at the time of puberty are as follows. Here, a breast size begins to increase with darkening of the skin of the nipples at the tips of the breast. A, a menstrual cycle occurs. A thick hair starts growing in the genital area between the thighs and armpits. A pimples develop on the face and widening of the hips occur. The skin frequently becomes oily. Please note down this. What are the changes occur in females during the puberty. Next question. Write two difference between binary fission and multiple fission. So this is also 2 mark question. Write the two difference between the binary fission and the multiple fission. Here, the binary fission, the parent organism splits to form two new organisms. So that this occurs in amoeba and paramecium. Multiple fission, the parent organism split to form many new organisms at the same time. So that is in the plasmodium. The nucleus of the parent body divides only once to produce two nuclei. The nucleus of the parent body divides repeatedly to produce many nuclei. So that is the multiple fission. So commonly occur in the plasmodium, it occur in the amoeba and paramecium, binary fission. Please note down the difference between the binary fission and the multiple fission. Next question. What happens when accidentally planaria gets cut into many pieces? Bryophyllum leaf falls on the wet soil. On maturation, sporangia of rhizopus burst. Okay. So here, what happens? Accidentally planaria gets cut into many pieces. So here, the planaria that will reproduces through regeneration regeneration of the new parts, they will develop into a new organism through the process regeneration. When planaria accidentally gets cut into many pieces, then its each piece grow into new complete organism. This is known as a regeneration, right? When the bryophyllum leaf falls on the wet soil, the buds present in the notches along with the leaf margin develop into new plants. Then the sporangia of rhizopus contains cells or spores that can eventually develop into new rhizopus individually when it bursts on maturation. So this is what happens when the sporangia burst. When the sporangia bursts, the spores will release and the spores will develop into a new organism. Describe the reproduction by spores in rhizopus. Please note down this question. Describe the reproduction by spores in rhizopus. How the rhizopus will reproduce through the spores. Here, the bulb-like structure, round bulb-like structure will be developed at a hyphae. So just imagine this is the hyphae and the bulb-like structure developed at the top of this, and this structure called as sporangia, and this inside the sporangium, so there are spores will be there inside this. The nucleus divide and form the spores, and when this sporangium break down, the large numbers of spores will be released, and these spores, when they reach the suitable substratum, develop into a new organism. So this is how the reproduction takes place in rhizopus through the spore production. Okay, spores in rhizopus. So dear student, I will end the class here. If you have any doubts, you can write down in the chat box. Please note down, or you can write down in the chat box if you have any doubts. Yes, any doubts? Okay. Thank you, students.